few weeks ago, I was forced inadvertently to revisit some of the reasons why I ultimately decided to go my own way and do my own thing. You see, when I travel in public, I typically have an MP3 player and I typically listen to music or sometimes podcasts, but basically, I'm making every effort possible to drown out the din of the world. I don't want to listen to other people's conversations, strangers, people blathering on, whatever. But I was in a public place and I had to sit down, and unbeknownst to me, my MP3 player was not fully charged and it ran out of juice. So I was stuck there with little to listen to because obviously the MP3 player had died, and I was going to be there for a little while, and so I just perked up my ears. And I had both the fortune and the misfortune, depending on how you look at it, of sitting next to a gaggle of geese complaining about their ganders. Now, it's interesting in Europe, when the geese complain about the ganders, it's not really of the same caliber as you might find in the Anglosphere, specifically in the United States. It's much more subtle, but it's nonetheless there. And here you had this session of complaining and whinging, wishing that this man would be better or do this in the house or what have you. And I realized, once again, after all these years, that at least for myself, I made the right decision. And then when I went home, I decided to catch up on things. And by that I mean actually pay attention to some of these discussions that go on online between men and women. Guys who are still invested in discussing these things. Because I find it interesting. And of course, as many of you know, I don't deal with women except in some necessary context. I deal with a cashier, a bank teller, a doctor, whatever. Yes, in these cases, I'll deal with them. Otherwise, I just don't deal with them. And so in a very real sense, I've stopped paying attention and had stopped paying attention for years. So after this episode at a cafe where I had to listen to the gaggle of geese whinging and complaining about their ganders, I did go online and I went to various manosphere-related forums and more normie-related forums and what have you, and YouTube comments, and I just started observing, sort of compiling all this data in my head. And unsurprisingly, I realized that nothing had changed. It's all the same. The arguments are the same. The disputes are the same. And it simply reinforced and vindicated, on a personal level, not universally, for me, my decision to just leave it all behind and walk away. You see, I would see discussions about the most inane things, but also the most insane things. I've seen multiple discussions since on why it's okay for a man who's not the father of the respective child to pay child support to both the woman and the child, because allegedly it's in the best interests of the child. Well, that's a very strange conundrum. Why should a man who's completely unrelated pay child support for 18 years if the child isn't his? And this is really where I was strongly reminded of so many of the reasons why I checked out many years ago. Imagine this, these women, absolutely incredulous at the idea that a man who's not the father wouldn't want to pay for the child. Now, I think a lot of this has to do with innate biology. After all, women, as much as they are mothers, always know they are the mother, and fathers don't know that. It's the eternal question of paternity assurance, and that's an issue that haunts us even today after millions of years of mammalian evolution. They expect these men to just, quote-unquote, do the right thing. Now, there might be some cases where a stepmother might understand what it's like to have to support a child, I guess. But imagine that. Not being able to comprehend why a man who's not the biological father, has no connection to the child, should not want to pay for that child. That's how insane things are, how far they've come. and maybe we've been here forever, I don't know. And the total lack of sympathy and understanding expressed by women. But that's only part of the point I want to make here. I want to reemphasize, as I have throughout the years, that going your own way is an individual choice. And what I'm about to say is not advice, it's not an admonition, it's not a dictate, it's nothing of the sort. But I have noticed the tendency throughout the years of a lot of guys in the manosphere, and specifically in the MGTOW sphere, saying things along the lines of MGTOW as some form of revenge against women or getting back at them. So let me assure you that women don't care. They simply don't. Maybe in some hypothetical, non-existent world where all the Henry Cavills or their equivalents checked out and went their own way, they would begin to care. They don't care about the vast majority of men, we know this. So why would they care if you're going your own way? And a lot of these guys get into their heads that it's some revenge fantasy, or they're socking it to him. We got them running for the hills, guys. MGTOW, go your own way. They don't care. They've never cared. You know who does care? You do. And here's the problem. Here's the imbalance in the decision there. I don't think you can really be satisfied with a decision to go your own way if it's predicated on some revenge fantasy or retaliation. Women don't care. It has no effect on them. They just don't give a damn. So the only person left who can care is you. And if you're caring for what I believe, and this is just my opinion, the wrong reasons, because you think you can sock it to them, well, you're not going to achieve anything. Ultimately, it's only going to matter to you because you are invisible, rest assured. They don't care. They're not on the run. They're not running for the hills. They don't give a flying squirrel. And so, you're left with a decision. Were you going your own way for reasons other than those that would have been most beneficial to you? And this worries me because I think it can be damaging psychologically over the long term if that's the reason why men think going their own way is in their best interest. Now, every man needs to pick and choose his battles, and you'll receive a lot of criticism for resignation and walking away. But yeah, picking and choosing battles is an important aspect of life. And some of us have just picked and chosen a different battle to fight. A battle that is arguably more challenging in many ways because it really is going against the stream. But when men are still caught up either in red pill rage or thought processes about somehow getting back at women when women don't care, it doesn't make much sense. Every man who decides to go his own way goes his own way on his own terms for his own reasons. That's totally understandable. But if one is to ever find contentment in that process, I don't think it's achievable if there's too much focus on women and the external. It's not to say that I'm advocating total isolation. I'm not. People talk a lot about MGTOW monk or what have you, and I guess I'm sort of a MGTOW monk. But I think it's important to have social contact. As I said in a recent video, it's important to foster friendships with your male friends and continue with them and preserve them and strengthen and enrich them. It's important as we get older, in particular, as we go our own way. But none of that is helpful if you're always, frankly speaking, weighed down by anger, bitterness, whatever it might be. To my mind, going your own way ought to be, again, just my opinion, an experience of incredible personal freedom, but also one that's incredibly unburdening in the sense that you feel lighter. There isn't anything that you're leaving behind. There's no trail. You're not turning back to see what you might have missed. And I fear in the minds of many men that this mentality of, women are running for the hills and we got them going, which A, isn't true, and B, never was, is only going to damage them long term and not be beneficial. Again, just my view, my opinion. And I had to think about this again after all these years, because I was thrust into this situation again, inadvertently, because my MP3 unfortuitously had died, and re-experience it, and then of my own accord do some investigations. And it's still going on. And I don't regret a single thing on turning my back on all of that. It was a waste of time for me for years. When I was a younger man, it was a waste of time for me back then, and it's a waste of time for me now. I'm quite content to once again return to my little corner of darkness, to abscond away from the cacophony of the world. But before I do that, I wanted to make this video and state certain things. I don't know how any man, individual or otherwise, should live his life. I'm just an average guy at best, pretty idiotic in fact in many regards. But I do know that being obsessed about the past and being obsessed about women is not a healthy route. And it's not going to make going your own way any easier, because it does have challenges. There are challenges to going your own way. But sometimes you need to just leave it all behind. And that's the only way forward. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. As always, if I'm still alive, I'll check you out later. And you enjoy your weekend. May the gods give more than they take. Bye-bye. If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content, please consider making a donation or becoming a patron. Thanks for watching.